Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina. I'm the host here, and my guest today is Drew Chen. Hi, Drew.
Hello, how you doing?
So you are in Melbourne, right?
Yeah, Melbourne, Australia. Yep.
How long have you been living there? Because you're not from there originally, right?
No, I'm originally from Malaysia, from Klang, this little town called Klang in Malaysia. And I moved here about 6 years ago. So when I moved here, I went to Sydney first, and I was there for 3 years. And then I've decided to move to Melbourne uh, for about 3 years now here, and I really enjoy it. There's a huge kind of community and a sense of community, and I really like my house that I'm living in at the moment as well, which is great.
So you started knitting in Melbourne, right?
Yeah, it hasn't been long at all. I only started knitting in March 2019. So maybe 2.5 years ago or so, like that. I only kind of started knitting because I wanted to do things with my hands. So I'm a graphic designer by trade, so graphic and user experience designer. And in high school, I used to do a lot of crafts, a lot of things by hand, a lot of cutting and pasting. But then when I moved into graphic design, I kind of stopped doing a lot of things by hands. And then kind of somewhere in March 2019, I was like, okay, I'm gonna start doing crafts again. I'm gonna explore different things. So the first thing I explored was cross stitching. That was fun. It was fun for a while, but I found it to be quite rigid that I gotta have. I guess when I started, it's all very, I gotta follow exactly where the reds are and where the greens are to make everything kind of pop up, which I found is not really my kind of thing. I understand people really enjoy it, but it's not really my kind of art. And then I went into perler beads for a while, where you kind of arrange all the beads and you iron them. And then I found knitting. I always joke that, oh, maybe I should take up knitting. Maybe I should take up knitting. I've never got into that, but then I've decided, okay, let's just kind of do it and
Well,
see
did,
how it
did
goes.
anybody in your family ever knitted?
No, no, my mom cross stitched, but no, no one knitted in my family because in Malaysia it's so hot.
Right.
So yeah, knitting is not really a thing there, but I do have a few friends that knits as well. Yeah.
So, like, first project, what was it?
Oh, it's a very good question. Beanies. I think I started making beanies because I was Googling what was the simple. I think scarf would be a simplest thing, but I was like, no, man, I'll kind of try to do a beanie instead of a scarf just to challenge myself a little bit. And then kind of from that on, I knitted like a really long scarf for a gift for a friend. Made a sock. I made a pair of sock just because I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try to make a pair of sock. That's the only pair of sock that I've knitted that I worn every day. Actually, during winter, I actually wear it all the time. And then I moved into jumpers and sweaters and kind of stuff like that, and I kind of found and really enjoy doing that part of knitting because there's so much space for me to be able to kind of create. And yeah, it's quite fun doing jumpers.
So when you first started, did you learn from books? Did you learn from YouTube? Like, what was your source of learning?
A lot of YouTubing. Yeah, I think I'm a very visual learner. So I learned graphic design through kind of self-taught as well. So I kind of pick up things quite easily visually. And so yeah, a lot of YouTubing, how to cast on. I remember my first cast on was a mast, and just kind of understanding what's the proper way to cast on and kind of stuff like that. And yeah, a lot of YouTubing. And then I kind of bought books on kind of stitch patterns and dictionaries just to kind of expand my knowledge on what I can kind of knit or what kind of patterns that I can create. Yeah, and then kind of moving slowly into cable. I'm doing like really basic cables, but it's something that I would kind of want to learn more. It would be kind of cabling and stuff like that.
I don't know. I didn't see anything simple or basic in anything that you need because
Yeah.
I mean, when I look at your pieces, they are very, I mean, besides the fact that they're very colorful, they also complex. Like and there is usually a story behind them. So I
Mhm.
watched some of your videos on Instagram where you talk about, like, explain. There was this one piece about geese,
Yeah.
And you went into like the whole details explaining basically every color and every stitch. So when you come up with your designs, is there always a story behind?
I try to. I started knitting with story or inspiration behind it when I started kind of when I started kind of selling my pieces, because I don't really enjoy making pieces just to sell, because it's hard to fit someone. You know, I have to make it S and M and kind of stuff like that. It's a bit hard to fit someone. And if someone wants to buy something from me, I want to make it special for them. So in the whole process of the commission process, I usually send them a questionnaire. And in the questionnaire, I'll ask them kind of what inspires them and what's their favorite color. I usually ask for a photo of them as well, or kind of stalk them on Instagram just to see who they are as a person. And then kind of ask them or dig deeper on what the inspiration is all about. And then from there, create the garment based on that person. The reason why I ask for their photo is because I usually imagine them kind of wearing it while I knit as well, just to kind of infuse that personality they have. The wild geese one was actually a poem given to me by the person that commissioned it. And it kind of resonated with me a lot. It's talk about kind of being who you are, even though, you know, life is not always perfect. And I kind of, when I read that, the image of kind of wild geese flying through when the sun sets kind of came to mind. So I decided to create that scene in the back piece of the cardigan. So yeah, I try to infuse stories or thought or inspiration of the person in the garment, because I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's also gives them a lot of kind of worth as well in the garment.
So
Yeah.
I've read somewhere that one of the questions that come in that questionnaire is Beyonce the best thing that ever happened to this planet.
Yeah, in the questionnaire, there are a couple of questions that I asked. Is Beyonce the best singer ever? And like there's three answers. Absolutely, 100%, of course. Yeah, that's the only three answers are there. And then one of the questions at the end of the questionnaire is, you know, are you buying this for yourself and you're enjoying it? I think that's the most important thing, you know, because I think commission, it's hard to kind of price commission. It is of a slightly higher price because it's, you know, it's made to measure and kind of stuff like that. I want them to make sure that they are getting into the process and understanding kind of what goes behind creating it. Yeah.
Right.
And it also kind of breaks the ice as well in the questionnaire. Once I send it to them, then we kind of sort of became friends and we can kind of start chatting about things.
Are there any return customers?
Yeah, I got a few return customers for commission because of, I guess, because of how I infuse personality into the garment. They're like, oh, okay, you know, they want kind of different things. One of them got like a cardigan and then came back and wanted like a longer dress, which is quite nice to do. One was a crop jumper, and then I made like a longer jumper, like a longer coat for him as well.
Do you learn new things from your customers? Like, do they, because they commission you and you ask for inspiration, do they expose you to things you didn't know before?
Not knitting wise, but definitely inspiration and colorways and stuff like that. Because when they send me the inspiration, it makes me think a lot about what they are into, and kind of make me read about their inspiration. So there was that poem. I also got one about Sir Francis Bacon, which is a painter in the UK, and there was one of the inspiration as well. And then I kind of watched documentaries about him, and just to understand who he is. And then that's how I kind of learned more about that person. But also, once you learn and once you see the work of like different artists, you get inspiration of colorways as well, different ways of matching colors together, which you haven't actually done before. And yeah, I think my inspiration and kind of things that I learned comes from there. I think there's always things to learn. It's always quite fascinating. I get a lot of like music as well. I love music, and I get kind of some of my clients sending songs that inspire them, and that kind of really makes me excited to like discover new artists as well through that
Right.
way.
You mentioned that you are a queer person of color. How
Mm-hmm.
did Australia treat you, and how is life compared to Malaysia?
Ah, it's such a great question. I guess growing up in Malaysia, you don't need to fight for your race a lot. I think because it's such a multiracial country, but there is still racism in Malaysia, but it's not the same fight. I think the fight to be in Malaysia is to be a queer person in Malaysia because it's a Muslim country. I only came out about 3-4 years ago, so it's not that long. Came out to my parents, but I was kind of out to my friends back in Malaysia. Moving to Australia, I kind of realized that there needs to be much more kind of representation of people like me and on media, on kind of social media and stuff like that. So I decide a lot of the models that I work with, or a lot of the talents that I work with, I want to work with kind of people of color because that gives them voice, that gives them the chance to be able to show their work as well. Thankfully, so far, kind of my 6 years here in Australia, I haven't experienced kind of outright racism. There are microaggressions a little bit here and there, oh, why is your name Andrew? Is it not, do you not have like an Asian name? But I've just been called Andrew since I was young. My mom named me Andrew. But yeah, just kind of random comments like that. But I think there's still a lot of space that we can occupy, a lot of space that we can bring our work to and show people what we can do. And I think through my channel, I try to do that as well. And I think that's very important for me.
Do you feel like your role is more over educator in this respect, that you have to like bring the information out there?
Yeah, education is such a hard word because I think I'm still learning as I go along, because my journey as a queer person of color, or as a person of color in a white or in a Anglo country, is still pretty new, and I'm still kind of learning a lot of the thing. But if I would say it's my duty to share what I think being a person of color is, and if my duty to share if there's something is done wrong to my community, I need to tell people why it is wrong. I think thankfully, because of given this kind of following on my Instagram, I can have a voice and I can kind of say things a little bit here and there. But yeah, I think that kind of sets me apart a little bit on my profile as well. It's not just about knitting, it's also about kind of being a queer person of color. I think before my Instagram account, I don't really share a lot about myself. I'm quite like a reserved person, and I still am. I'm such an introvert, but then it gave me, I recognize that there is a platform, or I can have a voice. So why not kind of use it?
Right.
Yeah.
So you are an immigrant into Australia. I immigrated to the United States when I was young. And I find myself, I've been in the United States for over 30 years now, but I find myself every once in a while questioning, am I Russian? Am I American? Right? And to my Russian friends, I'm an American because of my mentality, because the way I basically like all my adulthood was spent here. To the Americans, I'm probably the Russian girl, right?
Yeah.
So do you find yourself sitting between the chairs as well, like in your immigration?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely something I think about all the time. I think I'm really self-conscious. I do have like kind of self-confidence issues at times, but yeah, it's a lot of it is stemmed from the identity. When I kind of walk down the street, well, I think, oh, will people be looking at me like, I'm this Asian person, why am I doing here? Or kind of taking up spaces, or taking up kind of in social media. A lot of times when I post as well, I'm like, okay, is this the right thing to do? Am I kind of going to offend anyone? But I'm like, okay, I'm giving my voice. This is what I'm going to do. But kind of when I go back to Malaysia, it is really foreign. Now, I haven't been away for such a long time, but it feels like a home a very long time ago. I think I've grown so much since I moved here, and I've given the opportunity to grow, and I took that and I kind of grown. But kind of going back to Malaysia, I feel like I don't think they think I'm Australian. I think a lot of them still think I'm Malaysian. I'm very Malaysian at heart. I make a lot of Malaysian food. When my friends come over, I still kind of make kind of Malaysian food and still kind of champion that. I'm thinking of ways to marry kind of my knitting style or my knitting pattern with a lot of my heritage, but it's still something that I'm working on. But it's definitely something in my mind all the time, kind of being an Asian person here in Australia. And also kind of going back to Malaysia, who am I? And yeah, and those questions always kind of pops up.
Right.
How do you deal with it?
Um, I don't know. It's like it's one day at the time sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I would miss the Russian food, so I'll go to Russian store and buy something
Mm-hmm.
from my childhood. But then other times I would talk to my classmates and I would find
Mm.
myself not being able to relate to what they're saying just because it's been so long. So it's one of those things.
Yeah, yeah, it's so interesting because like your conversation or your perspective kind of change once you move into a different culture. I guess you're shaped by that kind of culture or whatever is happening around. And I've kind of realized a lot of my conversations and my point of view kind of changed over time to what I've been kind of talking about with my friends back in Malaysia, which is quite fascinating.
Well, when you walk on the streets, do you ever wear your knits?
I try to, it's quite funny because my work is so colorful, but when I kind of go out, especially during lockdown the past couple of years, this has been really basic. I've been wearing this kind of mohair jumper thing that I knitted last year, pretty much the whole lockdown. So I'm pretty much in the same outfit every time I go grab my groceries. But I try to kind of wear, if I go to like a party or if I go to like a exhibition or something like that, I try to kind of wear my kind of knitted garments as well because it's fun. I think some of them are like a vest and stuff like that it's quite easy to kind of mix and mash around with things. Yeah, so I kind of try to wear some of my stuff.
To me, it just like seems almost ironic, right? Because on one hand, you're saying how you're private person and not very self-assured. On the other hand, there is no way people not gonna notice you walking in something like that on the street, right?
Yeah, I think I used to be much braver when I was young. I used to wear a lot of colors, like yellow pants, purple pants, teal pants, a lot of colors. And then when I moved to Melbourne, Melbourne is so gray. Everyone wears like black and gray and, very muted colors. So you will stand out. Like if I wear my things out, like it will stand out. People will like stare, which, I'm quite used to now. But now I'm like, are you staring at me because of what I'm wearing or because like I'm this kind of weird Asian dude with a mullet here in Australia? Yeah, it's so many different things. But I try to say, like, I try to kind of think, like, not everyone is thinking about me all the time. I think I'm so self-conscious, but at times they'll just kind of have a look and they probably won't remember who am I the next day. So I'm like, keep that in mind. And like, I'm just gonna be happy being myself. So yeah, when I go to kind of parties at times, they'll get kind of people coming to me and say, oh, your clothes are so kind of cool and stuff like that. It's so kind of weird to receive compliments like that because yeah, I think because I'm so self-conscious, a lot of times I'm like, don't know how to react to that as well.
Is your first inclination to think like if somebody looks at you on the street, right? Do you like your first thought would be they looking at my outfit or they looking at me?
Me, because I think both because I'm quite androgynous when I dress. Like I do wear kind of flare pants. I wear a lot of like colors or like it's not form fitting or it's not menswear of how. And I live in Quebec, which got a lot of kind of older population as well and families. So they will stare when I kind of go out with my flat pants, like really colorful things. I think they look at both. They look at kind of, is this guy or is this a person, a guy or a girl, like a woman or a man, and then I think it confuses people a lot a lot of the time.
At what point did you stop caring about that or worrying about that, or do you still worry about what people
Oh, I
think?
still worry about it. I still worry about it, but it's not as big anymore. But I still do. I think I'm still quite self-conscious about it. I wish one day I could say, I don't really care anymore. I want to go out in a dress, I'll go out in a dress, but I haven't reached that point yet. So hopefully one day. But if I know I'm going to a queer space, if I know if I'm going to like a queer bar or like a safe space, then I would wear like a dress, like a kind of longish dress kind of thing, and go out, and that will be fine. I've been to parties where I kind of have makeup on and stuff like that. As long as I know that's the safe space that I'm going, then it's fine. But it's not something that I do kind of just to go out to get groceries.
Well, how safe do you feel in your like average day?
Pretty okay. Like people people will stare or people will look, but not all of them. I think people kind of get used to it after a while. If it's my neighborhood, um, they'll see me go get groceries and they'll probably get used to it. But the neighborhood down the road, Brunswick, is where kind of it's a more young and hip neighborhood. So no one will bat an eyelid if I'm going to be like in a dress or like in like a kind of mohawk or anything like that. It's totally fine. I guess it depends on the suburb and on kind of where you live, I suppose. Yeah.
Right. So when you decide on your designs,
All right.
do you go for the architectural sort of structural look of it? Do you mostly concentrate on colors? Do you try to get like as outrageous as you can? Like what's the thought process behind your item?
Yeah, I think my first question, or one of the questions to the customer is always, do you want it to be crazy or do you want it to be able to wear every day? I understand some people can wear crazy every day, which is totally fine. But I think I want to set the expectation. So if they say go all out, then I'm like, okay, now I can do a lot of different things. If they say, okay, I want it to be able to wear to work and stuff like that, then I have in mind kind of the shape and the form of what I can kind of create. And then we move on to colorway. Then that's my favorite part, kind of choosing colors, kind of going up to my yarn room and kind of taking all the balls and meshing them together just to create the colorway. And then I take a photo and send it to them. And then we'll discuss whether they like it or not and what we could add and subtract. And then I move on into form. I don't usually sketch. I usually kind of knit as I go along and kind of design as I go along. Hope that, like, thankfully, a lot of my clients believe in that design process, because like I'm quite a control freak because I'm an artist. Like if I do commission someone, it'll be a bit hard for me to like let go of, I want this to be like this and like this. But
Right.
thankfully a lot of my clients kind of really trust in me to create something. So I don't usually draw out a form. It's just kind of quite organic as I go along. Yeah.
So let's talk about that secret yarn room, or not secret yarn room. So you only need for 2.5 years. Yet when I look at that yarn room, I mean, a lot of little yarn stores would be jealous of that place.
I know. I'm quite obsessed. I think if I'm obsessed or really like something, I go all out. And that is such a great example of like over obsessing into something. I always tell myself, okay, I'm gonna stop buying yarn. And then like a month or 2 months afterwards, I see myself ordering a whole bunch just because there's a new color out and kind of stuff like that. But a lot of them are chunky yarn, so it takes up a lot of room. That's my excuse. It's chunky, it takes up a lot of room, so you look like there's a lot of yarn. But I was doing stock taking the other day. I'm like, oh, I do have a lot of yarn that I need to use. But I enjoy I guess I had the privilege. I got a full-time job. Well, I had, because I just quit my job, but I had the privilege of having a full-time job to be able to sustain me in this kind of process. I quit my job about a month ago and my last week is next week. So the yarn buying probably going to be stopping soon. But I'm going to try to venture into knitting and see kind of what I can do in that end. But it is a big yarn room.
Well, I also I saw you unboxing a couple shipments from, I think, Wool and Gang,
Wool and Gang usually, yeah.
Right. And you were talking about how those were the missing colors because they were out of stock, so now finally you got them. Do you like freak out if you're running low on any particular color, or do you take stock of your yarn room and like, okay, I have enough of orange, let's say, next time I'm not gonna buy orange even if it looks really pretty?
I used to not take stock, but I have in my mind, I know what colors are there, but it's not really written down. But like recently I've decided, okay, I need to do this more seriously. So I did create like an inventory list of what the things I have. But it's so hard because like I started knitting kind of test patterns and stuff like that. I'll just go and grab an alpaca and I won't like go into my inventory and like -1 ball. Like I don't do that. So it's a bit hard to like really control that side of things. But yeah, I think I usually kind of have in my mind of like the amount of colors I like, the rough amount of colors, because a lot of my shelves I can see through. So when I kind of pull them out, I can just see where they are rather than kind of like a closed storage. Then I won't know exactly what I have. But I did make a mistake of buying the same pink a couple of times because it looks quite different on the website. I was like, oh, I don't have that pink. And then when it arrives, I was like, oh, I got 16 balls of this pink now that I need to figure out. But yeah, I usually kind of do take stock or take knowledge of what I buy. And I do have like a few favorite colors that I always make sure that it's always like in stock as well.
Is there like ever an item that you need that just in one color? Like, have you ever knitted an item that was just one color?
Oh, such a good question. No, even if I did, I did a yellow mustard piece with a floral artist. So we upcycled like a mustard sweater, but that one is like different colors of yellow, like different shades of yellow. So it's quite cheating. It's not really one color. But no, I think a one color. Oh, I did make, no. I want to say I didn't make like a white dress, but there was like patches of different colors. So this wasn't, yeah. So no, I haven't made anything with just one color before, no.
So like you look at yourself 2.5 years ago when you just started, right? And all the way that you got to today, like everything that you've done, everything you achieved. Do you have a plan for the next 2.5 years? Like, do you see like what kind of knowledge you're missing, or do you have a dream of where you want to proceed with this?
Oh, this is something that I've been thinking for quite a few weeks, like the last couple of months, because as I mentioned earlier, I quit my job. So I'm like, hey, I want to see where I can take this knitting to. So I've started developing patterns. Like I did like a kind of tank top pattern that I want to kind of try and see if I could kind of gain interest if people want to buy and people want to make kits out of it, and I could kind of sell. And I've been collaborating with some kind of yarn producers as well to see what we can create together. Kind of maybe like a pattern and stuff like that. That would be fun. I do have like a pop-up shop kind of thing happening soon, and I think that's quite exciting. But I want to create a community space. If I could, I think have the chance to just have like a yarn shop and people will come and knit and have a chat, or like new knitters want to come and learn, and that's fine as well. Like a little kind of cozy space just for people to come and gossip and make crafts. Doesn't need to be knitting. If they want to crochet, if they want to paint or anything like that, just having the space, having that safe space for people to be able to create things. I think that would be quite fun. But no, I really should start planning, but no, I don't have any plans at the moment, but it's something that I've always dreamt about. Yeah.
Well, you've mentioned somewhere that 100% of all the sales, all the proceeds from what you've done went to charity.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to change now that you're thinking about making it into your career?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that will be quite unfortunate. Like I feel kind of bad to do that, but it's something that I need to, well, to sustain. I think I need to do that because I had a full-time job before this. I don't need the amount of money. I don't need that money, I don't need that extra money. I can kind of donate it to people because I was in that position, which thankfully I was. But now I think I would have to kind of take some sort of profit just to be able to kind of sustain as well. I usually kind of charge time, but it's not a lot of time as well. It's just like $4 an hour or something. I really should kind of look into how I price things really. It's something that I definitely need to read about more. But yeah, I would definitely need to change that structure, unfortunately.
So like I'm looking at your items, right? And they take a lot of materials. And you don't use any materials. You like high quality materials, you like sustainable materials, like you have
Mhm,
the whole basically philosophy behind
mhm,
using the materials, right?
mhm.
And then on top of it, none of it is like simple headband. We're talking about like very complicated garments. How on earth do you come up with the pricing for that?
It's, I think, I look through kind of the net and see what people are pricing and see how I could price it. I've just realized that pricing is quite low. But that's because I started out last year. I only started selling last year, so I would price it quite low. But I don't want it to be expensive. I want it to be accessible. Even though the materials are expensive, I want it to be able to be accessible for people to own something that they really like. I think that's very important for me. You know, slow fashion is a thing. I think fast fashion is because, you know, you can own a lot of things and it's fine. But I think at the same time, people enjoy fast fashion because it's cheap. And it's hard for people to get into slow fashion because it's quite expensive. And I want to kind of hit that middle ground where slow fashion can be achievable as well, can be attainable. And I'm trying to see how I can do that more. I've increased my price slowly kind of this year, and I would say I would increase kind of slightly next like coming months, but it's all, I think I usually ask for a budget as well when I do a commission and ask them, you know, what do you have in mind? And then I can kind of make my garment or make things according to that kind of budget as well. And I think that's really important. I think it was great that you mentioned a lot of the materials. I spend a lot of times looking for the yarn that I use, making sure that it's sustainable and like eco-friendly, especially the alpaca. It took me a while to be able to find one without kind of synthetic fibers in it. Um, but yeah, it is expensive. They are really expensive.
Well, I interviewed an artist from Barcelona, Estive, and he's like very avant-garde knitter, and he
Mhm.
creates this. I mean, it's absolute masterpieces. Like you don't see things like this anywhere. He was on the Vogue knitting um, catwalk there. Like, I
Oh,
mean,
nice.
the
Okay.
guy is like real artist, right? And I
Mhm.
was talking to him about selling his stuff, and he was like, yeah, I made the deal with this store, so I'm gonna make something like very simple wearable so I can sell,
Mm.
right? I
Mhm.
feel like because of the type of things that you need, it limits you in that mass market sort of.
Yeah, I've thought of like collaborating with or like approaching brands to kind of say, maybe I'll kind of do a pattern for you, like a more kind of subdued pattern rather than like kind of things that are quite chaotic, and see whether that works and that brings in kind of some form of income. But like this pattern that I'm developing, it's just a very simple kind of tank top, but you kind of mix it with like a cotton and a alpaca, so it gives it like a little texture to it. So it's still quite achievable for like beginner knitters and stuff like that. I definitely have some stuff that are kind of more, I guess, more achievable or easier to knit for people out there if I'm going to go into like a slightly more consumer market, I suppose. But I'm still unsure about um doing the same design over and over again. It's something that I might not enjoy, because a lot of my philosophy of kind of my brand is, you know, I'm making you own this thing and you're the only person in this world will have it.
Right.
And I still want that to kind of happen. Maybe if I do kind of make like a summer tank top for people, I'll make sure like the variations of the color and stuff like that will be unique for them. And there's no kind of other variations. The same variation will be out there for like another person. Yeah, but it's something that I need to think about, definitely.
Does it make you like sad? Does it feel like a compromise to go into this as a business?
A little bit. I think you got to do what you got to do to survive. Yeah. I wish I could knit and show my work in the museum all the time, but I'm not sure how I'm gonna get money off that. But if I do have the chance, I would love to kind of knit for exhibitions and display and kind of be kind of works of art, if I can say so, and do campaigns with different kind of person of color and just do art shows or art campaigns with people. I collaborate with like different makers. I think that would be so fun. But at the end of the day, you're like, how am I funding this this project? You know, I can apply for grants with the government and stuff like that. Victorian government or the Melbourne city is actually really good at like creative grants and stuff like that. So they give out every year and every time, a few times a year. But it's definitely, yeah, if I get the chance to just knit and be able to show my work or only do commission work, that would be great. But commission work is it takes a lot of time. I think it takes from the time you talk to someone, like I think people don't see it. People only see the time of knitting, but the time it starts from the time you talk to someone and then the inspiration and then all the time I used to look for that inspiration and to learn more about that inspiration and then until the packaging and setting it up, like it's such a long time. And I don't think I can survive through commission alone because I don't have other knitters knitting for me. It's just me kind of knitting alone. So it is a bit sad, but I think it's something that I need to do, I suppose.
So let's talk about that red dress with the hat that we just recently finished. What was the inspiration behind that? Like, tell me the background story of that project.
That one was for Melbourne Fashion Week. So a good friend of mine, which is also a stylist called Joseph Romano, he approached me and said, oh, he's doing like a pride themed exhibition for Melbourne Fashion Week. And it's like, oh, choose a color. There's only green or red that's only available. I love green. Green is my favorite color. We wear green all the time, but I thought red has more relation to me as a queer person of color. I could identify more with the color red. And so I kind of decided to choose red. I think I spoke in my video as well, being a person of color, being a queer person, especially, you carry the lives of a lot of people that fought for your rights before you. You know, living in Melbourne, I can be a queer person really easily, but not in Malaysia. And I think my friends back in Malaysia doesn't have that. But, you know, a lot of work has been put into this fight to be able to be who I am here in Australia. And I think I want to honor that in the garment. And also to talk about kind of HIV and U equals U, which is undetectable equals untransmittable. That means if you're on effective medication, HIV medication, you can't pass on the virus to your loved ones. And I want to portray that in the dress as well. So it's inspired by Lee Bowery, which is this huge artist back in the UK. He unfortunately passed because of AIDS-related illness. And he makes kind of costumes that are huge and over the top. And I wanted that silhouette of the dress to resemble a lot of his work. So that was kind of inspired by him, that huge kind of shoulders that comes out to here. I had to put kind of foam just for it to like stand up like that, which is quite fun. And the dress, the skirt part of the dress was inspired by the AIDS Memorial Quilt Project. So it was a quilt project that people made quilts for people that passed on during HIV or the AIDS crisis. And so the dress or the skirt part is actually made out of quite like a kind of like this like patchworky. So it's kind of patchworky for that skirt part. It's quite interesting because it's such a big skirt. I had to do some calculations on how to make like a cone skirt and how to divide different sections. So it's like, I think I'd have to need 4 different sections of it. And that's a huge train at the back of the section as well. And then have to sew them together. The whole thing took about a month and a half or so. I also made the hat. So I did some weaving for the hat as well. I wove it through like a hula hoop So that was quite fun as well. So yeah, it's a huge project, and I think it's something that is really meaningful to me, and I could use the work to kind of educate people or to kind of talk about things that are happening in my community, and I think that's really important. And I feel like, I think you mentioned earlier, if I could do more of things like this and have the chance to be able to educate people through my work, that would be a dream.
Right.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen to that dress? Is
It's currently in exhibition in the city, actually, until the 21st. I do have a few non-for-profit organizations reach out to me because while it states it's going to be on the 1st of December, they might want to do like a content piece on that. So that would be quite exciting. But then after that, it's just going to be in my storage. Maybe I'll whip it out once in a while to like wear it and feel my fantasy. I don't know, but it's going to be in the storage after that. But I definitely want to, maybe I'll have it at my pop-up shop and just for like a display. Yeah, but it's definitely going to be in my storage after that, unfortunately.
So I noticed sometimes you prefer to post pictures of like a model wearing your items. And then that red dress you were modeling yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like how do you decide when you're gonna be the model?
A lot of times I would say 80% of the things on my Instagram is me, because it's all taken during lockdown, or it's all kind of, it's easy for me because I got a photography background. So I could kind of do that really easily. The reason why I got different models is when I want to collaborate with someone and I want to kind of show them their talent. And that's one of the reasons. Or when I want to show the garment on a woman figure. It's because, it's hard for me to be able to show that. And I need to kind of get some friends to be able to do that. And with this pattern that I'm doing as well, I just kind of had talked to like a couple of my friends to model it for me, because it's hard. I think it's hard for people to imagine a pattern on me being on like a woman's body, when, yeah, I think that's why I kind of use that. So when people see it, they can understand, oh, okay, this is how it's going to look like on my body, or this is how it's going to look like, on different kind of shapes and sizes, because I can't just, it's a bit hard for me to kind of model everything. It's also a bit weird when I started doing that. Like now I'm quite comfortable with kind of having my photos on my page. Like the beginning, it was like, oh, it's so weird seeing me on video, editing myself. It's so weird, but now it's like, okay, I got the hang of it now. Yeah.
How is Instagram treating you? Like, are you meeting like all the interesting people? Is it hard? Are you fighting the algorithm every day?
Oh, when I first started, I downloaded this app that tracks people that follows you and unfollow you. And then I realized that it's not a great thing to do, because it gives me a lot of anxiety. I think the numbers of like likes and shares. Of course, I'll look at it just to see what content resonates more with people, but I try not to obsess with the numbers anymore, because I think it's quite detriment to my mental health. A lot of the times when I post something on Instagram, I usually won't kind of reply or look at it until the end of the day. I don't want to spend a lot of time just going through and replying people, and then, because I knit most of the time of my time as well, because so if you're on your phone, you can't knit and stuff like that. So I try to limit my time to when I post, and then I'll look at it at the end of the day and try to reply everyone, or like reply people the next morning instead. Just so it doesn't kind of give me anxiety as well. But I've been meeting a lot of great people, like a lot of the people that I collaborated with, or like people that I kind of shoot with, are all people I found on Instagram. It's really easy to strike a conversation on Instagram. All my commissions are, I would say 90% of commissions are through Instagram as well. So it's a great tool, but it's also a tool that gives me a lot of anxiety.
Well, let's talk about the name of your Instagram handle. So it's the cat
Yeah.
who needs. Like, why
Yeah.
such a feline reference?
You know what? It didn't take me that long to come up with the name. I just wanted to make sure. I think there's another the cat who lives out there, but I just wanted to make sure like you know, it kind of makes sense. I always liken myself to be like a cat. I'm such a homebody. I stay at home all the time, and just lays around like a cat. So I feel like I'm a cat, and it's not that hard. Yeah, I think it wasn't that hard for me um, to find that name. I think that resonates with me. I didn't want my name, like, you know, because it doesn't kind of make sense if I like Andrew Chan and stuff like that. It doesn't kind of make sense. So I thought it is something kind of quirky and funny as well. When I kind of tell people, it's always a smile when they kind of know my Instagram handle. Yeah.
Right. Well, how can my viewers help you to become a huge success?
Ah, I think just look at my work and tell me what you think. I think feedback and comments are always great. I would love to hear about what people think when they look at it, and then share if they like my stuff. If you like my stuff, you can share it on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm on Facebook as well, but it's not huge on Facebook. But yeah, but also kind of talk to me and tell me about your craft journey. I always kind of want to learn about people's kind of journey as well through crafts and stuff like that. But success, I'm not sure what success is. I think after quitting my job, I've been rethinking about my measure of success. Money probably is not kind of the biggest measure of success though, but it's how I want to sustain. And so if you see my new pattern and if you like it, you can buy it. If you don't like it, you can let me know why you don't like it so I can make changes to it. Yeah.
What's the furthest place you sold your items to?
UK. I had a customer in the UK. He actually is a friend of another customer, and he saw my Instagram, and it was a variation of this mohair jumper. And so yeah, I actually got a message from someone in Germany a couple of days ago that wants a jacket. So that will be quite exciting once I kind of start working on it. So that will probably the furthest my knit went.
I have a friend who, like, somehow, like, when I saw your items, like, immediately thought of her because she is this like freehand knitter. She's basically like every item she makes is just yarn dictates it. It's not that she makes the yarn, it's sort of like yarn guides her through what she's making.
Yeah.
At some point I started using hashtag on my Instagram wearable art, and to mock me, basically, she started using hashtag unwearable art for her own. What would you tag your stuff? Like, do you feel like it's wearable art or unwearable art? Like, how do you see it?
I would say wearable art. It's weird. It's still calling my work art for me. It's still a bit weird, but I guess it kind of comes back to the whole self-confidence issue. But like now I'm getting better at it because I'm going to be calling myself an artist now since I leave my job. So I would say wearable art, but I would say also craft for a cause or art for a cause as well, which is one of my hashtags. And I think that's very important as well. But yeah, I would say mine is quite wearable. I guess it depends on the person that's wearing it and how outgoing they are. I wouldn't say I will wear a lot of my stuff every day going out, but yeah, it's definitely a it's definitely statement pieces, I would say. Yeah.
Well, thank you so very much for being my guest today. I absolutely loved getting to know you better.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna.
It has been fun. It has been so fast.
It's fast, yeah. I'm gonna post all the links to you in the description of this video, so people who watch this video can find you on Instagram, on Facebook, or email to you, and hopefully it's gonna bring some new people to your account.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this chat.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone who's going to be watching.